Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to go over how to write a practice critical response for our article, The Staggering Number of Wrongful Convictions in America. So remember, you had to write a summary, which was just basically what the author told you, and then the critical response is you actually responding to what the author said. The critical response is longer than the summary. And so don't forget, I will have the packet for how to write the critical response up in week 3 for you to look at. If you didn't save it from week 2, that's fine. Remember, with the critical response, you're going to have 4 paragraphs. The first one, make sure that you introduce the title of the article and the author's name, and you pick one point in that article that you want to talk about. And then in paragraph number 2, you state a personal connection, maybe experience in your own life, something like that. And then in paragraph 3, you want to develop that connection further to other things that you've read, you've watched in the news and social media. Maybe you want to connect it back to something you've already read or watched in this class or in your other classes. And then remember, paragraph 4 is just a simple conclusion. So here, we're going to set up with Calibri or Times New Roman font type, change the font size to 12, and then double space. All right, you will put your name, the assignment, which is critical response, and then the date. Okay, you don't have to have a title, that's completely up to you. Make sure that you indent each of your paragraphs by using the tab key. All right, so remember, on the packet for the critical response, there is an example of one. So here in this first paragraph, they explain the author and the title of the article, plus the point that they want to talk about. So in this article, I thought I might respond to this paragraph here. Gross talks about how the registry receives 4 to 5 letters a week from prisoners who claim to be innocent. They're heartbreaking, but he always has to say that we're a research project. We are an innocence project. Okay. So first, I need to explain what Gross was saying in that paragraph. All right, so in the article, The Staggering Number of Wrongful Convictions in America by Samuel R. Cross, he talks about how he works for the National Registry of Exonerations. His organization receives multiple letters a week from prisoners looking for someone to help with their case. Gross finds these letters. Let's see, what did he use heartbreaking in that? He did. So you know what? I like that word. So I'm going to keep it, but I'm going to put it in quotes. And that's okay. Heartbreaking. Because he wants to help, but he can't. His organization simply keeps the information about each wrongful conviction. They do not do the work of helping to exonerate people like the Innocence Project does. Okay, so there, in a little nutshell, I've talked about what he said in that paragraph. Okay, so now paragraph number 2 I have to state a personal connection. And so here I'm going to talk about how I have done kind of my own work on wrongful convictions by listening to certain podcasts that actually allow for crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing is where anybody can listen to that podcast. It's released on Sundays, and they can look online at the documents, at the photos, and things like that. They can use their own fields of expertise to help figure out what really happened in that case. And they can call in, they can email, they post online, and they help to exonerate wrongful convictions. So for that, I'm going to say the past 5 years, I've been listening to the podcast Truth and Justice with Bob Ross. Each season, he takes a look at a possible wrongful conviction. Each Sunday, he releases an episode where he examines part of the case files on what happened. Okay. Sometimes he even interviews experts in forensic science fields as well as law enforcement. He also interviews possible witnesses or people who might remember what went on back then. Remember, a lot of wrongful convictions, they get light only after so many long years of waiting for someone to take a look at their case. So a lot of times you're looking at decades, and sometimes the information isn't there or people have passed away. Let's see. Ross posts the documents and edited photos of crime scenes on his website for listeners to take a look at to form their own ideas of what happened. Each week, listeners are then given a chance to write in, phone in with their questions and theories for a follow-up episode on Friday. With this type of crowd sourcing, Ross has been able to help with several wrongful conviction cases. 6 of those cases came directly from the Innocence Project in Texas, where they specifically came to him to ask for help on solving the wrongful conviction. Now, I could go on more, but I think this kind of explains most of it. So now I want to refer back to this idea that I originally had in the first paragraph. So even though Gross isn't able to help those who write into his organization, there are many other people out there helping to exonerate the wrongfully convicted. Okay? All right, and then in paragraph number 3, we've got to connect it to something besides ourselves. So what we can do is I can talk about the book Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson. So in the book Just Mercy by Brian Stevenson, he talks about the work he has done as a lawyer to help those on death row with the help of his organization called the Equal Justice Initiative. Okay, and then I can spend a paragraph talking about the important points that he brings up in that book. And then finally, based on my readings and listening to podcasts, I can leave a final note about, even though it's hard, it's definitely hard to listen to these cases, they definitely need to be listened to so that the innocent can be free. Okay, so that would be an example of a critical response for this type of essay. And so again, 4 paragraphs. Make sure you can detail and explain as much as possible. In paragraphs 2 and 3, your connection to something else, and then a quick, it could be a 1-sentence conclusion at the end. I will post my example here, up on Cobra as well. All right. Make sure that you get the summary and the critical response turned into the Dropbox by the end of the night on Sunday. If you guys want feedback, again, type something up, email it to me, and I'll be happy to give you as much feedback as I can. You guys have a good week. Take care, and I'll talk to you later.